Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. Your boy Road Dogg here with the man, the myth, the legend, the Buddha, the Harry Potter, the Hans Gruber of business, Mr. Karl Bryan. Or should I call you Hans?
Yo. Hans. Hey, let's go with Hans. I think I prefer Hans to Harry Potter, but hey, man, it's all good. It's all good. What's happening, shit?
Hans Gruber was one of my favorite characters probably ever in Die Hard. Like, that dude was epic. So anyways, there you go, my friend. Speaking of, but he was also a character in Harry Potter. Holy smokes, I just realized that.
There we go. We're on the shoots. We're on a roll already. Let's go. Let's do this.
I swear to God, I started taking these Nootropics this morning. Have you ever heard of Nootropics? These are like the brain.
No, what's that?
They're supposed to help clarity with and mental sharpness. So apparently it's working. If I can tie those two pieces together right there.
Damn, get me some. Let's do this.
All right. We're going to dive right in. We had some interesting conversation in the pre-show. More about that later. All right. First question on board here. What would you say is the primary difference between a $1 billion company, oh boy, and a $1 million company? Here we go, big kids.
Why do you say, oh boy? Is that a rabbit hole question? Is that what you mean?
This has got rabbit hole 101 written all over it. I'll put myself on mute. I will take a nap.
Okay. Okay. $1 billion company. Well, I mean, first of all, there's a freaking huge difference. Billion and million got very little to do with one another. Look it up. And so what is that? So 1 million seconds. What is that? I think that's 11 days. And then 1 billion seconds is 32 years. So when I say billion to million, make sure that we're keeping all these things in context. In fact, over the last, I don't think it was the last episode, but the previous two before that, I went pretty in depth with business models. Rather than rehash it, I might send you back to those if you kind of like this topic and it makes sense. So yeah, just look, premise being you want to stop, look, bigger, faster, cheaper, and better is kind of what I talked about when I talked about business models. That's not the way you want to be thinking about your business. That's not the way you want your clients to be thinking about their business. You know, it's more, how do they separate themselves? How do you separate yourself from the pack, right? But again, I'll send you over to that and think about it. I would say, again, you're talking million, billion. I think what we're really talking about is highly successful versus moderately successful. Again, don't make that mistake of, being, do you want to be big or do you want to be rich? And then think that, getting big means getting rich. And that is absolutely, do your homework and you will see that that's absolutely not the case. A lot of businesses fall over as a direct result of being successful. In fact, as many fall over from success as failure, as in like too many sales versus lack of sales. Some variables there. So one of the things you might want to be thinking about, if this is again a reality for your client or your own business, tax. The number one expense in your life, my life, Road Dogg's life, anybody's life is tax. In fact, I wrote an article or like an email, one thing, whatever you want to call it, on how how Amazon, they do billions and billions, $100 billion a year in trade or whatever it is, and they pay like zero tax. So I wrote an email on that. You might, what is it? Just Google Karl Bryan Amazon tax, right? Those 4 words, and I'm pretty sure it would pop up. But you might be interested in that. Before you go and get massively big, let's make sure that we're optimizing. Look, 2 parts. Like if I'm thinking about $1 billion company, I'm thinking about building something, again, we'll call it a In the pre-show, what were you talking about, Road Dog? The three little pigs, and you got the straw house, and then you got the brick house. If you want to build a brick house with your clients, I'd encourage you to be thinking kind of front of house, back of house. If you ever worked with a restaurant or owned a restaurant, you understand the restaurant industry. They'll talk front of house, back of house. So think about that for a super successful company. So like the front of the house, the front of the business would be what? Like value proposition, customer segments, like who you're going to, right? The customers, marketing channels would say be number 3, business deliverable, like what do they do? And then revenue sources, right? And then back of house would be what? Like, let's think partnerships, partnerships that they're building to either, bring in customers or fulfill what it is that they do, like the deliverable, business activities, and then cost structure. Again, a big part of what I talked about when I talked about business model, it's about, cost structure and being sustainable, big parts of that. So let's just go, let's take an insurance company. Let's just say that you work with a financial planner, you're working with an insurance company, you're working with an accountant, whatever it is, like what does their front of house look like? And then what does their back of house look like? So an insurance company, the value proposition would be like affordable insurance for life and auto insurance, or they might want to be premium insurance for life and auto insurance rather than going to the, going for a higher ticket kind of item. Like again, the name of the company can go a long way in how they're going to go about marketing it. 2, what did I say? Customer segments. You got like families, you got small businesses, and then say you got businesses with over 50 employees, right? And then you got your market channels. Let's say, how are they going to go about marketing themselves? They've got, online, Facebook, they're going to do radio. They've compiled an email list and they're going to send out to that, and then direct mail, right? So how are they going about marketing to bring in new customers? The deliverable, so what did I say? This is an insurance company. Like, what do they got? Policy, like customization of policy, for families, for small businesses. And then of course, what do they say? The businesses over 50 employees or over, 25 million, that could also be. And then the next one would be revenue sources, right? So they've got family insurance, single employee, business contributions, small business insurance, and then again, those clients with 50 employees, right? So that's basically going to be the front of the business. You got a client, they sell insurance. What is the front of the house going to look like? What's the front of the house going to look like? There it is, right? And then we go to the back, and then what are they going to have? So the back of the house is partnerships. So who would an insurance company partner with? You got banks, you got auto repair shops, but I guess advertising companies might be a good one, right? These the partnerships they have in place. Business activities. What do they need to, what do you need to do? What does your client need to do in order to operate a successful insurance company, right? So they need to attract new clients, upgrade existing client policies. Again, somebody's going to buy a new house, but they have a birthday with a 0 or a 5. You might want to look at recontacting your existing database, your existing client list, and handling that. And of course, handling claims would be a big one. And then like cost structure, what are the costs that go into, like in the back of house for an insurance company? You got salaries, marketing, definitely claims that you've got to pay out. I suppose that would be a huge one. Let's assume they got brick and mortar, right? So they've got, rent, and they'd have to pay out partner fees in the instance that they've got partnerships. So bottom line, you want to see that, and that could be the restaurant, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. I've used an insurance company, thinking front of house, back of house, right? So front, value proposition, customer segments, marketing channels, the ultimate business deliverable, and then the revenue sources. And then you go to the back and you're trying to build a brick house, a company with a B in the question. The back of house is partnerships, business activities, and cost structure. Could there be more that you throw in there? The answer is absolutely. But generally speaking, I would say for your average company, what I just listed off would give you a good sense as to what they're doing, right? But you're compartmentalizing the front of the business and then the back of the business the same way that when you work with a restaurant or you own a restaurant, the way that they do it. I don't think most people think about that. I think what they do is they take all of that stuff, Road Dog. They take everything that I just, listed, and they're all kind of, mashed into one. I think by compartmentalizing that, you make it a lot easier for your client, and then also make it easier for you to basically help them ultimately achieve massive successes, right? Part two of, say, okay, so we're going to build $1 billion company. We're really going to crush it. I think you want to be thinking about like creating a category versus creating a company, right? Like Uber ultimately created a category, right? Airbnb, same thing. They're not competing against hotels. They built the category. Jake Burton, the owner of Burton Snowboards, he died not long ago. He promoted snowboarding. He didn't promote Burton because snowboarding didn't exist. And that's how he got Burton on the map, right? So again, he was doing the sport, and then he was promoting competitions, right? When Steve Jobs announced the iPad, you can literally go back verbatim the way that he announces and he does the presentation, the way that he does, very impressive, right? He described the iPad. He didn't talk about it as a product. He talked about it as a category, right? And I was like, if you think about that, he didn't even mention when he launched the iPhone, it was similar. And like, he didn't even mention BlackBerry. He completely ignored them as though like they didn't even exist. Right. So it's like real categories. They're kind of, they're not competing with the competition. They're competing with space in your mind. Again, you talk about decompartmentalize. I mentioned that a second ago. That's kind of what they're doing. Like Gillette, they created the disposable razor. Didn't even exist before Gillette invented it. McDonald's created fast food, right? Watch the movie, Founder, great movie. They created fast food. Then they also created the drive-through. And now you go to the liquor store, there's a drive-through. You go to a bank, there's a drive-through. McDonald's invented the entire concept, right? And then they gave you deserve a break today. Think about mom, 3 kids, getting the kids out of the car, into the restaurant, back into the car is a gong show. Well, the drive-through created a very legitimate and huge problem. And like right now, we got coronavirus ripping around, like hand sanitizer. That is that's a category, or organic fruits and vegetables, right? And really importantly, I want you to think of, it's not about an idea, think about a problem. Okay. So organic fruits and vegetables, what's the problem that it's solving? Well, you tell me, are you comfortable? You go to Safeway and you buy the fruits and vegetables that are there. Are you comfortable that they're of the quality that you want to be putting in your kids' mouths? And there's a pretty good chance that the answer to that is no. And so then it's, well, you want to buy organic, but then another challenge you have is that it's very expensive. Okay. So creating, affordable organic is it's important part of, being able to solve that problem. But basically when you're marketing it, what you want to be thinking about is you want to be thinking of the problem. Like you'll see these guys out there, like when you're trying to promote a category, you want to be talking about the problem, not talking about the solution, right? Or not. I guess you'd be doing both, by the way. But if you were going to lean one way or the other, say 75-25, maybe 60-40, you'd be talking up the problem over the solution all day long, because that's getting inside the mind of the consumer, the ultimate client that you're speaking to, right? So like what we try to do, okay? So we solve the problem where consultants are renowned for having challenges of sitting with people and nobody's ever got any money. Nobody's gotten any money, right? 96% of business owners don't make it to $1 million a year, right? If you don't make it to $1 million a year, they don't, low profit margins, expenses through the roof, et cetera. They don't have any dough. Well, we created a process where we can find any business owner $100,000 in 45 minutes without them having to spend an extra dollar on marketing or advertising, right? We see the way that's the problem. And then the solution that we provide is the software, and think of it as a step-by-step checklist that can easily go in and solve it. Like people think about McDonald's as this massive success, and no doubt it is. McDonald's is just a business that has the fundamentals in place, right? Upsell, downsell, cross-sell, proper upfront offer. It's got all of that. Well, on the software they've created, profit acceleration software, it's got, you go into what's called the profit jumpstart. There's 12 specific areas. Those are the exact, if I was going to sit down with a business owner, again, a restaurant, dentist, chiropractor, butcher, baker, candlestick maker, there's 12 specific areas. If I wanted to put $100,000 into their bank account, not find it, but realize it in their bank account within 100 days, where would I go? What would I do? With a zillion% certainty, with some psychology added on top, because that's important. I would basically go to the specific area, the exact 12 areas that are listed that have been created in the Jumpstart 12 as part of the profit acceleration software. And then another challenge again is that consultants take on clients, keep them for 90 days, and then lose them. Again, our software solves that problem where we've got these 12 specific areas that you go and just get their ducks in a row in those 12 areas, the same way that McDonald's has done. And it goes to, again, many billions of dollars company. They've just got those, in place, right? Another thing you do is you create unique language. If you're trying to create a category, you want to hit $1 billion company, again, Uber, Airbnb, Apple, etc. Just creating language. So if you go into Starbucks, it's like, they got venti, and I still go in there and order large if I go into Starbucks because I don't even know if it's principal. I don't know what it is. I'm pretty sure venti is the biggest one. But I'm just not, I just say large, right? But you in there and they have a completely different language. So now I think that there's a business coach listening and going, is this a little bit beyond us? Like, is this the kind of stuff we want to be working with on our clients? Is a little bit too big? And the answer is debatably yes. Not, the first section here where I'm talking about, front of house, back of house. That's a basic one. And that's absolutely something I think you should help your clients do to to compartmentalize what it is that you're doing with them and what they're doing on their own. But, creating a category, is your client going to do that? Look, probably not. But I think that understanding, I don't know, what am I trying to say? Like the genesis of $1 billion company and knowing that creating a category is the foundation of doing so. I think that that's going to allow you to think about marketing with your client, thinking of the front of house, the market segments, and how they're going about delineating, their value proposition. I think that that's pretty powerful. So that's what I'd be, Road Dog. Difference between $1 million and $1 billion company is that they're two different leagues. Again, difference between 11 days and 32 years. Keeping that in mind, But there you go. That's kind of what I would say. I would think about, one, look at front of house, back of house, and then two, thinking about creating a category if you're going to move towards billions. And yeah, a little bit unrealistic for a lot of small business clients, but understanding that and moving towards, in that direction could be valuable. So there you go, Shoots. What do you think?
Did you start listening to Play Bigger this weekend?
Did I what, sorry?
Start listening to the book Play Bigger this weekend?
Love, little bit, yes. But I've sent the message through to my wife to say, buy this bad boy. So I'll be going through it, but yeah, pretty cool, man. Pretty cool.
And you just, because you mentioned that, right? Talking about Uber, like there you go. Like they created their own category. You talk about that. And that's the whole thing. It's just Uber saw an opportunity of something that didn't exist. They created their own category. And then typically, if you create your own category, 80% is what you will dominate in that space, which is pretty wild.
That is it.
So what was the word that you used there? What was that word again?
Compartmentalize.
Can you say that 3 times real fast for me, please?
No, I can't. Okay. Don't even ask me.
Hey, you did say one time, I believe, something about rich and big being mutually exclusive, something like that. Does that sound familiar? Can you go into that?
Rich and big, yeah. So, okay, well, you just want to be, so you got $1 billion company and $1 million company. You want to be a little bit careful. Big and rich do not mean the same thing, right? So what did I say? So we had company 1 and company 2, right? So like company 1, there's $25 million or $50 million in revenue. Lots of staff, call it 100 staff. They had massive expenses, let's say 45 million, and then they managed to net $5 million, right? So company 2, let's say that they've got significantly less revenue, significantly less staff, significantly less expenses, but let's assume that they net the same amount, like 5 million. And the question is like, which company do you want to own? And there was a time in my life where I would absolutely want to own company number 1 because I wanted $50 million of revenue and massive amounts of staff. Didn't care about the expenses because I figured we just get there. But like, if you had a business where you could eliminate 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 in expenses, like that absolutely matters, right? So big versus rich, you definitely want to You don't want to, the two do not mean the same thing, is what we were talking about, right? So again, and when you have a company that's $10 million or above, basically that is an HR company. So understanding that you go, like, your greatest successes will come through other people. So once your business that you're coaching hits a certain threshold, and again, I'm arbitrarily throwing like $10 million out there, it becomes an HR company big time. So that's what I would, Road Dog, that's, big and rich, two very different things. And I think that people confuse the two, and that would not be a roadmap I'd encourage. So there you go.
Okay. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Ooh, I like this. What is a big change you see coming to coaching in the next 5 years? This is juicy, especially that obviously we've had a lot of change over the past, say year and a half. But yeah. So what was it? What was it? It was, what was the talk show dude put on the hat and everything? Johnny Carson. Anyways,
what?
Push for Johnny Carson came on, and he was the fortune teller of the future. Come on now.
Okay. That was a while ago. You're aging yourself here, Shoots. Johnny Carson, man, he hasn't been on TV for a while.
Just a couple of years, right? Just off for a couple of years. Anyways,
so big changes coming. Okay. So you go to Facebook and somebody's talking about this, and what you're going to see is a lot of people going back and forth, and they'll be saying something to the effect of that, like, artificial intelligence is not, a threat to a real coach. Like, I've seen that in Facebook. I'm like, my own eyes type of thing. And it, in simple terms, like, okay, think of, wrote an email about this, sort of, I'm sure we've talked about it in the podcast at different times, but in the ICU unit, right? People are like potentially dying. They basically the nurses eliminated deaths. How? By creating a checklist, right? You get on you ever wondered why planes don't crash? One word, checklist. Take that checklist away from the pilots, and then watch what would happen in 5 years' time, right? And all of a sudden, magically, you'd see a bunch of planes going down, right? Self-driving cars are going to literally eliminate, when I say eliminate car accidents, okay, no doubt there'll be some mess up and a computer glitch or whatever's going to happen. But generally speaking, self-driving cars will all but eliminate car accidents, right? And by the way, the breakdown of vehicles as well, because you're going to get alerted when something's going wrong with your car long before it becoming a real issue. You're going to be notified, right? Again, I talked about my software. Think of it as a checklist where there's 12 specific areas that you work with the business owner. If you check off all of those 12, I categorically guarantee you money is going to land in their bank account, and it is going to stay, right? Like, in your own world. Okay. Let's say that you're a business coach and you're at $100,000 and the goal is to get to 250. Lead generation is something that is required for you to go up from, 100, 250, to 250. Create a lead generation checklist for yourself every single day. Right. And then actually the difference, everybody will do that, and then nobody will follow it. Right. You've actually got to follow it. And you just follow that checklist every single day for 30 days, and then just watch what happens in 30 days. And what you're going to find is you will stop riding that, invariable roller coaster of coaching where you go up and then you come down, and you go up and you go down. And you're just going to have a steady stream of a steady stream of clients. And your biggest problem will be that you're going to have coaches underneath you to basically farm off the business. Right. And yes, psychology comes into it. Absolutely. But what will happen is that checklist, think of the lead generation, that checklist will dramatically strengthen your psychology, right? So, it's my way of saying, like, I want you to think scientific approach, right? Like what's going to be the needle mover for coaching? A scientific approach will be the needle mover. And just think of more scientific than Tony Robbins' rah, 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 right? Which has a place for sure. And I'm a huge fan of Tony Robbins, as is Road Dog. And we talk about him all the time on here. So no hate mail, please, right? But I got to tell you, the easier you can make it, and again, think of a checklist for simplicity terms, life is going to become a lot easier with your clients and then in your own world. So, again, remember, taxis didn't think that, they were in the tech industry, right? And then Uber came along. And then cars didn't think that they were in the tech industry. And then Elon Musk came along, created Tesla. and look what's happening, right? Grocery stores still don't think they're in the tech industry. Well, Bezos now owns Whole Foods. And what do you think is already happening? And what do you think is going to happen in the future? And no doubt you see the, what do you call it? Self-serve checkout and all that sort of stuff. That's only going to dramatically increase, right? So less creative and more practical and application is what's coming, less artist type coaching and more kind of scientist / engineering types, which is highly boring. And for an old school coach and whatnot, and somebody that grew up in the Tony Robbins world or been trained by Tony Robbins, you're going to hate a lot of that. But I got to tell you, it's absolutely the case. And there will be a place, to be clear, for the rah Tony Robbins stuff. But, scientific is going to beat out rah big time. And I think that there's too much rah in the coaching and artistry. And there's going to be significantly more, software like we're developing, and we've got group coaching software and a bunch of really cool stuff on the boil. So it's going to become more scientific. So there you go, Shoots. That is the needle mover for coaching, and I am insanely comfortable with it. And the old school guys will fight it tooth and nail and lose. So there you go.
The answer was the great Karnak. I'm getting lit up by our insiders here that are not happy with my stumbling. Anyways, the grocery store thing, they've got it to a point, I believe, where it's like you don't even do self-checkout. It just registers when you walk out.
That's it. And again, going to accelerate big time. Big time.
Did you hear what I heard this on Business Mastery, Tony Robbins saying? He was saying the biggest loser of self-driving cars. Do you know who it is?
Who?
It is all to do with human organs and transplants and everything. Because the lack of people actually getting hurt and injured and being dead.
Oh my God!
Organ donation is the big loser. Yeah, but as he always says, then all of a sudden science or something will come up, and what's the big savior? 3D printing, right?
Yeah.
3D printing saved the day. But anyways, not to take away from that. Now you've mentioned obviously with all these changes. Would you say that there's a scientific way of looking at money?
Science, same way. So scientific way of looking at coaching and scientific way of looking at
money.
Money. Well, I tell you, the government, they don't think they're in the tech business, but Bitcoin might have something to say about that. So, not just Bitcoin, by the way. If you're a fan of Bitcoin, and no doubt, you got a bunch of experts on your feedback or your Facebook feed. Blockchain. Just again, if you're interested in Bitcoin and like, wow, this is a needle mover, you really want to understand blockchain. Again, I wrote an article about that quite some time ago. So again, if you just Google my name and then Bitcoin, you want to see my thoughts on it. And this is probably 2 years ago, but just go Karl Bryan blockchain or Karl Bryan Bitcoin, and it would pop up if that is something you're interested in. If you're not, please don't. All good. But I would, scientific. I got to tell you, the government's. It's going to be an interesting. Like Tesla have just come out, depending upon when you're listening to this, but Tesla have just come out and said that you were going to be able to buy a Tesla with Bitcoin. I think it's kind of crazy. Scientific, like if I were to take it and break it into like a 1, 2, 3, delayed gratification is something that you've got to train your mind to be more patient and be thinking, delayed gratification. That's with your clients. It's with your own company, with your own results, and not passive. What do we call it? Passively patient. Like things just happen for a reason. Don't buy into that. But you want to kind of, you know what I mean? You want to just get damned and determine that something's going to happen, but be patient with the results, but dogmatic in the approach. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. Like if you jump off a chair, metaphor, if you jump off a chair, right? Gravity dictates that you were going to come down, and you're going to come down depending upon how high the chair is, right? You get a low chair, you come off, gravity looks after itself, you're going to land on the ground and do that quite quickly. Okay, well, if you take a really, really high chair, you're going to have gravity plus velocity, and this might have a bad result for your ankles, right? So just don't expect to become a business coach today, and then just have, a magical amount of experience and be able to make your first million in 12 months and be able to coach all these guys and then get surprised when your client doesn't want to do anything, your client isn't listening, and then think that it's their fault, right? No such thing as a bad student. There's only a bad teacher, right? It's like the guy who buys a house and then he magically starts Googling, like, let's say you buy a house for 500 grand. And then there's a bit of a real estate boom, and then it goes from 500,000 to 700,000. Well, don't all of a sudden start thinking you made money in real estate, because if you sold the house, that means that if your house went up 200,000, houses in the area also went up 200,000. So if you sell your house and then you got to buy another one, you're basically just making a lateral move, right? And then stocks, very similar. Everybody's buying Bitcoin right now. And all of a sudden they're thinking they're Bitcoin millionaires, which, by the way, there's a weird dynamic, and that's a rabbit hole I'm not going down today. There is a debate to say that you made an insane amount of Bitcoin if you got in there early. But all that being said, instead of buying Bitcoin, if you trained yourself how to buy advertising, you would actually have skill and money instead of just money. And the skill is significantly more valuable than the money. No doubt you get that, right? So, the equivalent of velocity is just, train yourself, do the work with the clients. I don't care if you work for them for free. They pay you a small fee. They pay you a monstrous amount, like $5,000 a month and $60,000 a year. It really doesn't matter. What's the needle mover? The big one for you is to do the work and effectively think about creating that velocity for yourself. The way that you create velocity, like a high chair versus a low chair, is by getting in and doing the works, right? The only difference is instead of some broken ankles, you're going to become very rich, because the skill of being able to help somebody grow a business and for yourself to grow a business is a little magic pill. So that's what I'd say there. And then compounding, if I were to break down money into a science, a dollar doubled 20 times is $1 million, right? Double $1 million 10 times and you got $1 billion, right? Like, again, it's a game of, think about money as a game of doubles, right? Look, compounding, it comes back to what I said at the beginning, though. If you're gonna realize compounding in your own world, you've got to be patient, right? Like, remember, if I take a penny and I double it every day for 30 days, on day 30, I've got 5 million. But on day 25, it's not very exciting. But on day 26, it's super exciting. Day 27, it's doubly exciting. And then it goes from there. Like, those last 5 days is where all the magic happens, right? So again, just kind of being, intelligently patient as opposed to passively patient. And like, even like you're listening, like if you're here, you're listening to this, I want you to think of the same thing. Like your own education and your own talents do the same thing. They compound. So every single day, if you taught yourself something about business coaching, or you went and worked with a client every single day, on day 30, you wouldn't even recognize yourself from day one. But what most coaches are doing is they're spending all their time in lead generation mode and then wondering why they're not getting anywhere, right? Like, if you really want to be a crushing business coach and you really want to be a needle mover, you really legitimately want to do 7 figures and $83,333 a month in recurring, consistent fees coaching. Look, the best exercise, I've given this to you guys to 100, I don't know how many of the podcasts, but many of them. Get a pen and piece of paper. Instead of generating leads and worry about generating leads, grab a pen and paper and then write down how you're going to help a specific business owner. So go restaurant, and then write down 50 ways to help a restaurant, and then go dentist, and 50 ways to help a dentist, and then 50 ways to help, again, butcher, baker, candlestick maker. Well, do that, and then watch how excited you are tomorrow to get a hold of the restaurant or the bakery or the, again, butcher, baker, candlestick maker. Like, that's the needle mover for you. And the good news is, again, as you start working with these guys, your talents are going to compound the same way that your money compounds in your bank account. The problem is it takes some time. But when it starts to happen, again, compounding, one of the wonders of the world, crazy. Scientific approach to money. And also, look, I think you need to understand that there's only 3 ways to make money, right? There is business, There is real estate and there is stocks, right? So basically, okay, I said a second ago, like you could go and buy, you buy Bitcoin, you make a lot of money, but you got zero control. You buy real estate and make a lot of money, you've got zero control. You could buy stocks, you're betting on somebody else's company, again, zero control. Well, take $100, $1,000, buy advertising, make your goal to take 1,000 and turn it into 2,000, and you just learned how to double and basically do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. Remember, money is a game of doubles, right? And then help a mortgage broker do that, help the real estate agent do that, help the dentist or the doctor, the butcher, baker, candlestick maker, and then help the baker, and then go do it in another city, in another city, in another city. You got yourself magic, right? And then also understanding that business, like trends are your friends. Is it a saying in business that I would encourage to be thinking about? Like, I've surfed. I lived in Australia for a decade and a half. I've done some surfing in my day, often in back beaches where I had absolutely no business being there. But I just tell you that Kelly Slater, world champion for close to a decade, and myself have one thing in common when we surf, and only one thing in common, and that's that we both need a wave, right? Well, trends are your friends. I want you to think of the trend in business is similar to a wave in surfing, and you need it. I don't know that you need it, but if you really want to accelerate things, like Google is Google, not because these guys are super intelligent and they're magic. It was the wave of online search, and they just happened to be at the right place at the right time, and that is why it's a $1 trillion business. It's not how intelligent these guys are, and how they put together a really bang up spreadsheet, right? So thinking about that, and then like Red Bull as an example, the guy who owns Red Bull, in fact, Road Dog, you and I got a buddy, Bieber's dad, right? Like he hangs out, his next door neighbor is the guy who owns Red Bull in Canada. Well, basically what happened is Red Bull, the guy who started Red Bull, went to Asia. He saw energy drinks taking off over there. He basically came home and said, oh my gosh, this isn't really existing here. He basically launched it, and then he's one of the richest men in the world. And importantly, by the way, he followed Nike's example of success, and he sponsored athletes the same way that Phil Knight sponsored Michael Jordan. Totally changed the trajectory of the business the day they signed Michael Jordan. If you guys are fans of the ESPN 30 for 30 or whatever it's called series, there's actually one that actually goes through this. I think it's called Shoe. I can't remember, but it's one of those, and it's the guy who basically linked up Michael Jordan with Nike, and he kind of created the basketball shoe, and the not just the basketball shoe, but the magical endorsement opportunities that you now see. Like, they didn't exist prior to Michael Jordan and Nike. There weren't athletes with their own shoe and likeness on shoes. That didn't happen. He created it. Anyway, so that, like, Red Bull followed that. So instead of, sponsoring Michael Jordan and the Wayne Gretzky's and traditional athletes, he was sponsoring X Games type athletes who didn't have these types of opportunities, by the way, these extreme athletes. So basically he was able to get them for significantly less than they were otherwise worth, the same way that I guess Michael Jordan got signed for significantly less than he was worth. But that was basically, Red Bull was launched on the back of that, right? So just like, trends are your friends. So thinking about that, like aging population, again, think anti-aging is probably on point. And the answer is, like, just go have a look at the population, and then you guys answer it for me. And I'm going to tell you that anti-aging isn't going anywhere. And that is on trend big time. Home delivery, is this on trend or off trend? Totally on trend. You got a client that's not doing home delivery that could potentially do home delivery. This is a game changer. Smart devices, smart clothing, big time. I'll tell you, business ownership, on trend, off trend. Never have there been more entrepreneurs than today. And that is only going to accelerate big time, big time, to the government's dismay, by the way. They want you to continue to be lawyers and doctors and pay massive taxes. A little bit of a shift there. So anyways, that's a rabbit hole, but there you go. Business ownership on trend. So Shoots, that's what I got for you, buddy. The science of money. I don't know. That's what I'd say, bud. What do you think?
This is why you get paid the big bucks. Everyone's out buying toilet papers and you're out buying adult diapers. Like, it's just on.
How'd you know, Shoots? How'd you know? There you go.
I saw your garage. I'm not. Hey, listen, you mentioned compounding. And I actually had this conversation a few episodes ago. And I took your message of compounding. And I just wanted to real quickly run you through this. Imagine for a second you threw $500 and you learned how to run a proper ad campaign. Okay? And let's say you're charging $2,500 a month for a client. Okay? Now, if you started, let's say nothing happened until month 2 and you got one client and it cost you $500. But then after that, you kept doubling down, 500, 1,000, 2,000. If you did that, do you know where you'd be at the end of month 12?
Tell me, where?
So you would have an monthly ad spend of $512,000. You'd be pulling in just over 1,000 new clients a month. You'd have a total of over 2,000 clients over the course of that time frame, and you would have money coming in, profit of just about $5.1 million.
Boom.
Compounding. People
there we go.
Disregard the power of compounding, and when you throw it to advertising, it's like. Like we talked about in the pre-show, people want the home run now. No. Swinging singles and just being patient, and look what happens. It blows my mind. So
100%. I love it. Shoots.
There you go.
True, man.
If we were to pick just one, I want to pick compounding, but it's not my show. It's your show. If you're to pick one thing from today's show, what would you pick as the one thing that people can take today, implement to their business, and start running with?
One thing from today. I think maybe, I think at the beginning, I don't know how good of a job I did of explaining that, but like thinking category as opposed to like what category do you operate in? And then what category do your clients operate in? And then how could you go about, I don't know, niching is the right word I'm looking for, but, drill down. And then come up with a different way of describing what it is that they do. Help them do that. Big, and by the way, is this going to be for every client? Is this, if you got a client called Discount Mortgage, Discount Mortgages, it probably isn't the right one for them, right? Why do I say that? You name your company Discount Mortgages, and then you get broke people, chasing you down the street. Don't get surprised, right? Like you're not, you're significantly better off by naming your company Premier Mortgages or Platinum Mortgages, etc. So just thinking about that, I think power category is kind of cool. So that's what I'm going to say, Shoots. That's what I'm going to say, bud.
Beauty.
What I got.
All right, man. Well, everybody, thanks again for tuning in to another great episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the man on top of the hill, my boy King Karl. If you're not on the inside and getting access to the pre-show, or you aren't getting Karl's daily emails, or you just want more information on how to build your coaching company, visit focus.com and subscribe today. Also, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share with a fellow coach or someone you think that would make a great coach. Again, that's a great salesperson or just a highly motivated type. And of course, as always, we'd appreciate it if you'd rate this episode, as we know that iTunes, Spotify, and the like give an insane amount of weight towards reviews. So please leave us a review if you like what you heard. And I cannot believe it. Another one in the books, my friend. Take care, everybody. And remember, progress equals happiness.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.